Good morning, Representative Wood, Senator Cabrera, Representative Pavelak D'Amato, and Senator Wong, as well as the distinguished members of the Insurance and Real Estate Committee. It's always great to be in front of this committee. I loved my time on it, and I do miss it. So good morning to everyone. It's been nearly 14 years since the Affordable Care Act passed. But here in Connecticut, we see double-digit health insurance rate hikes on pretty much an annual basis. Healthcare in Connecticut grows more and more unaffordable. Health insurance premiums are the size of mortgage payments. Working and middle-class families are struggling, finding it more and more difficult to find, get, and pay for quality healthcare. That's really unacceptable, and I think there is a better way. Senate Republicans and I have offered policies which, if adopted, will significantly lower healthcare costs for these working and middle-class families. That's real money for real families, real money that can make a big difference in household budgets. One of those ideas is House Bill 5247. A similar version of this bill nearly finished, got it over the finish line last year. And middle-class families were disappointed that the legislation stalled because it had widespread bipartisan and bicameral support. We hope that 2024 is the year that this common sense legislation becomes reality. Why? First, because the small group insurance market is broken and only a few carriers remain active. Because rates have sharply increased in recent years. Because it helps working and middle-class families by helping small business, the state's largest employer and backbone of our economy, to offer more affordable healthcare insurance. Because by allowing small businesses to pool together under the umbrella of a trade association, these groups can pool their resources and risks to reduce cost. Isn't that the basis of the Affordable Care Act? The more individuals in the pool, the lower the healthcare risk and cost. What kind of groups? Groups like the Associated Builders and Contractors, Connecticut Association of Realtors, Connecticut Business and Industry Association, the Connecticut Nonprofit Alliance, the Connecticut Medical Society, the Connecticut Brewers Guild, and the Credit Union League of Connecticut. These groups will be able to create large self-insured health plans for their employees, dramatically reducing costs. These plans would offer high-quality health insurance subject to the same state and federal rules, regulations, and coverage mandates as fully insured plans, but at a significantly lower cost than is currently available in small group markets. And this can be accomplished without public funds or taxpayer liability. And that's really the point of what we as lawmakers must focus on: making Connecticut more affordable, making Connecticut more accountable, making Connecticut more transparent, making Connecticut more focused on the struggles of working and middle-class families. So I thank you very much for raising this bill again once more this year. I thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning, and I look forward to its progress throughout this legislative session. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I believe you are also, when you're not a senator, you run a law practice. Is that correct?
I do.
And how has been offering health insurance as a single law practice been for you?
It's really cost prohibitive. And I've been blessed with either having family who works with me or employees who are covered under a spouse health plan. So we've been able to compensate them to pay for those other policies. But when, as an employer, I look to purchase insurance, it's really cost prohibitive, particularly for businesses of less than 10 people.
We received a lot of testimony in support of this from small law practices, and a lot of the urge for us to take this on was that attracting talent. You really need to provide this type of benefit. Would you say that pooling with the Connecticut Bar Association would give you the ability to be able to offer better quality coverage?
I think it certainly would.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Wong?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome, Senator Kelly. I want to thank you for your length of work on the insurance. You've shared and educated me quite significantly, so I always value your tutelage and insight. Speaking in regards to affordability, can you just kind of refresh to our constituents from your experience and your long-standing the cost increases for the fully insured health plan in the past 10 years from a standpoint of your involvement with rate increases and how it has become beyond unaffordable?
Well, I think, there's no single silver bullet here. I think you have to look at more or less in all of the above perspective. Health insurance and premiums are really a reflection of the healthcare system. And so while we can look at ways to offer lower cost insurance, at the same time, we have to look at also the cost drivers, which is looking at the provision of healthcare and also prescription drug. So that's why in many issues, we've come forward with ways to lower premium. We've also looked at things such as benchmarking and also the cost of prescription drugs, because those are equally as important. If we want to get our hands around insurance, you got to look at the cost drivers. So we need to be persistent in this lane, allowing our small businesses, which employ most of our working and middle class families, to offer a better benefit to their workers. But at the same time, we also have to be serious about those cost drivers, because that also is part of this equation.
Thank you. And it echoes the same testimony as provided by Dr. Gifford and OHS in regards to this is one part versus the escalating and unaffordable cost of healthcare in itself. And I also want to applaud you the fact that as leader in the past of the Senate Republicans, you focused on that in regards to benchmarking, reinsurance, PBM study reviews, and also really understanding that it is a whole ecosystem. But I wanted to compliment you on your leadership in that arena. But in regards to looking at this as a cost, you've also heard in the testimony some of the criticism of the MEWA program, one of which is that it would discriminate based upon health risks, and number two, that it would eliminate protection for pre-existing conditions. What do you say to those kind of experience from your background and your familiarity with health insurance products in your tenure?
Well, from my experience, I think that is where we as legislators need to step in. It's something we looked at and we've talked about with regards to benchmarking out of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, where they had a certain experience. But then what we wanted to do was make sure here in Connecticut that we deal with it differently so that marginalized patients don't lose their health care. The same thing would go here. I think that's where, as legislators, we've got to be mindful of what various things can and can't do, but also based on the experiences that we know, make sure that we protect groups and individuals so that along the process, we leave no one behind.
And I think that is the most important role as we've undertaken this, is to create a more affordable healthcare insurance product. Now, the challenge is we've worked and gotten feedback, just as you cite as an example of Massachusetts and its benchmarking. And as we have adopted it in the state of Connecticut, we have learned from the pitfalls and the shortcomings of Massachusetts to be able to build up a more robust and better educated system of efficiency. Wouldn't you say from your work in the past on this bill that we have taken feedback from CID, from OHS, from the health advocates, from many of the people, and particularly some of the concerns that have been raised? We have accommodated that to within a uniquely Connecticut MEWA bill. If all of those issues have been addressed and legislatively accommodated and learned and heard from those challenges, why do people still continue to resist this?
Well, I don't know why people do what they do. Okay. But we are blessed in the state of Connecticut with the Connecticut Insurance Department. They are one of the finest regulators in the country, if not the world. And so I'm going to say the aptitude and skill set of that department is second to none. I know that they're currently evaluating, you heard this morning, this same bill. And so as people come forward, I don't look at it with concerns. It's with, I'm going to say, constructive criticism. The people who want to add to the dialogue, I think, is important. I think we need to listen and make sure that anybody who has an issue, that issue is heard. It's made part of the process. And we'll see what the recommendations of CID are. But they are some of the best regulators and will, I'm sure, no doubt, have a good product at the end by the session's end.
Thank you for that input. And I'll close by simply saying we do have one of the best insurance department in the world. And Connecticut, rightfully so, is called the health insurance capital of the world. We have tremendous expertise employing hundreds of thousands of people. This is a MEWA plan that incorporates the best of what we offer. There may be opponents of this that says perhaps a government-run or a one-payer system is a better way to go. For me, I find that difficult that we don't utilize some of the best talents that we have. Let me be clear. Our insurance companies have a ways to go in regards to consumer responsiveness and accountability and transparency. But nevertheless, they have actuarial experience and management experience that we should tap and utilize to create the best plan that addresses the healthcare insurance needs that we have. So I want to thank you for your testimony and thank you for your leadership on this matter. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions? Representative Pavlak-D'Amato.
Thank you. And thank you for your testimony, Senator. I think I've asked this in the past, and so I'm always confused, but the Connecticut State Employee Plan, now, is that insurance or is that technically not insurance?
Well, I don't run the plan, but as I understand it, it is not insurance.
Okay, so that's my
Technically.
understanding too. And I think after several times asking other people, I think we've established that. So it's not insurance either, and it's pooling. And I believe maybe it was 2010, there was a bill passed that allowed municipalities to also pool, called the partnership plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I feel like I'm making this like testimony, right?
Yes.
On the stand. I apologize. But that partnership plan, I think we realized a couple, maybe it was more than one session, a couple years, there was a shortfall in the, I think in the funds for that plan and paying out on claims, if you recall. Do you?
Yeah, that's my recollection.
Okay. And do you remember, was it just once or was it twice? I'm not sure at this point.
I think there were multiple years.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think there was also money. I'm not sure where this money came from. I want to say 20 million or so that was taken from somewhere to make that plan solvent, if I recall.
My recollection, and you're testing me here a few years, but my recollection is that when you have a government payment program that overruns a budget, ultimately it's backstopped by the taxpayer.
Right.
That's, however you want to look at a general fund and an omnibus budget, at the end of the day, the tax bill falls on the kitchen table of working and middle class families.
Yeah. And so I think I'm trying to wrap my head around, I don't mind the in as far as the testimony that's happened so far, the questions, the criticism of the plans that were the health benefit consortiums, but at the same time, when the partnership plan has that exact issue, doesn't seem to be a problem. Nobody minds, nobody says anything. And in fact, I believe we put in a bill to, I want to say like audit and review and look into that. And that bill was shot down just last session. So I do appreciate the concern. Nobody wants a plan to go under. Nobody wants claims not to be paid. But I don't know why we hold one standard for this bill and these plans, but not for the state employee, the partnership plan. That seems to get a pass. There's not a problem there. We're just going to look the other way and pretend that didn't happen. So again, I don't know why we can't be consistent in this building, in this room. I find it very ironic, but thank you for your testimony.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Representative. Any other questions? Seeing none. Senator, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Likewise, thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning.
Thank you.